Welcome to the SaaS Revolution Show, a podcast by SaaStock. Here we interview SaaS founders from around the world who've been there and done that, as they share the ins and outs of how they built their businesses, their operations, their path to securing investment, and more. Our mission with the podcast is to help you, the founder, learn how to scale your SaaS, maintain your well-being, and navigate the complexities of this ever-changing industry. I'm your host, Alex Dima, and together we'll explore the good, the bad, and the ugly in the journey to SaaS success.
So a quick introduction from me. Sid Jashnani is a certified EOS implementer with more than 70 years experience in IT. He is also a former CEO of Momentum, which he scaled from two people to 65 before exiting. So really, he's kind of knows where you guys have been and kind of has an understanding. But as I said, I know Sid has loads to talk about, so I'm not even going to waste his time anymore. Sid, this is you. Go on. The floor is yours.
Thanks, Joey. And thank you to Joey and Alex for making this happen. And me and Alex have been talking about this for some time, and finally we got around doing this. I also want to thank you guys for showing up. I know everyone's busy, and I see one of you in a conference somewhere in Birmingham. That's what they were talking about. So appreciate you logging in and being here with your video on. So I'm sure you've heard guys like me come on SaaStock, thanks to Joey and Alex, and you probably have a lot of speakers. So I also know that I have a few seconds to hook you in to get you interested in this. Otherwise, you're going to be busy checking emails and Slack messages. So what I want to do is kind of make a small promise. And the promise is by the end of day today, or end of our workshop today, you would have picked up at least a tool or a concept or an idea that you can go and implement it in your business in some capacity. It could be related to obviously EOS, but you could apply it in your business life or your personal life as well. It's applicable in both areas. But obviously I can't make it happen without you guys actively participating and asking questions. So please engage and ask all sorts of questions. No question is a stupid question, because when I started my journey in EOS, the implementer that I worked with told me to shut up because I kept annoying him with stupid questions. So please ask me, and I promise I'll answer all questions possible. I want to share my screen, just kind of take you through what I have in store for you guys. And I want to cover three simple things. The agenda that I kind of put together is kind of funny and cliched, but the first one is simply getting real. And what that just means is must get to the point where we don't have a facade and we're just being open and honest. And also I want you guys to look at whatever we cover and start thinking of your business when we go through these tools, and really think about how can you look at your business from a different light and different perspective, especially with respect to the tools that I cover. And we'll also learn a little bit about your business and where you've been if you get an opportunity, especially if the group size is small. The other thing I want to get into is obviously keeping it simple, because we always say that EOS is simple but not easy. And simple and easy are two different concepts. And keeping it simple just means that we're not going to cover any theory here. It's going to be all practical stuff, tools and concepts that you can use immediately in your business. There are 100,000 companies who are officially running on EOS, and most of them are getting success out of this. Overall, there are about 1 million companies who use EOS officially and unofficially. They've downloaded the tools and they're using it in some capacity. Some of them self-implementing and some of them working with implementers like us. So again, I promise there's not going to be any theory here. It's all practical stuff that is known to work with entrepreneurial companies like ours. And finally, I want to share some tools and resources with you where you can start applying those tools in your business so you can start getting some of the results that you expect from such a system. So getting to the first part, getting real, and I just want to kind of get a show of hands. How many of you have heard of EOS or are using it, or in some capacity, or some of you think it's some sort of a crypto tool, because there's an EOS crypto tool as well somewhere. And I've also had a person talked to me that, he thought it was a camera session because Canon makes EOS cameras as well. So yeah, happy to hear from you guys. So Bridget, you had your hand up. What's your level of familiarity with EOS?
I was just putting my hand up to say yes, I had heard of EOS, but I realized that also. But actually, the story is that I was at SaaStock founder member retreat last year, and Emrit from Agora Pulse talked about EOS, and because of the context of my business at the time, I was looking for any advice going. So I read the book Traction, and it really resonated. And I wouldn't say the reason why I'm here is because we are not fully formed, implemented EOS as a company, but we certainly have adopted, the spirit and the intention of EOS and the level 10 meetings and the agenda and so on. So, and it has definitely made an impact. But I'm here because I want to know, how to take that to the next level. How now that I've done all the framework and everybody understands, how can I refine it to make it better?
Got it. Thanks for sharing. What about you guys, Osman, Keith? What is your level of familiarity with EOS?
No, I have no idea.
Okay, fair enough.
This is just all that I am dialing in to learn, because it's rare. I don't hear about it's rare. I don't know about something like this at this point.
Okay, amazing. And Anwar and Hamza?
Hello, thanks for the event. Not familiar at all. I really don't know anything about it.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I've just I have heard about EOS a couple of times. That's it. I don't have any idea about working and how things work. Yeah.
Amazing. Fair enough. So I kind of get a perspective of where everyone is, so I can, share the appropriate version so everyone gets on the same page here. So just going to give you a quick brief history about EOS. So everything that you're going to hear about EOS was created by this lifelong entrepreneur by the name of Gino Wickman. And Gino was called in to join his family business at a young age. And over 7 years of working in that business, he turned it around and took it from a struggling business to a very successful one, which he exited. And during those 7 years, he tried a bunch of stuff. He experimented with different things, and he finally kind of cobbled together this system called EOS. And EOS is just a set of simple, practical tools, which is just designed to help you run a better business. And it just orchestrates and harmonizes all the moving parts of your business. There were two key discoveries that Gino made while he was cobbling this together. He was kind of intrigued by the fact that there are two sets of companies. One set of company and founders who seem to have dialed it down. They know what's going on. They're in control of the business. They know where it's going. When they see a bump, they can stop, speed up, take a left, take a right. So pretty much businesses that seem to be in control, and the founders in pole position controlling those businesses. And then there were these majority businesses which seemed to struggle. It felt like they're, running behind a bus, trying to kind of catch on to the bus, where their business is the bus. And somehow they latch onto the bus, but they cannot control it. And what Gino also discovered, that there's a science behind these sorts of companies. And the science is, I'm sorry, my phone's ringing for some reason, which is the hotel phone. I don't know why. Just give me a second. I'm sorry. Apologize.
Sid is currently in Sofia, Bulgaria. He did this training session this morning, so he's trying to figure out what's going on. Hi, thanks for joining, Sharam. Lovely to see you again as well. Yeah. Where are you calling from?
Atlanta, Georgia.
Perfect. Oh, Sid's back.
Sorry, guys. Apparently, do not disturb doesn't work. I'm in Bulgaria at the moment, and the hotel's not very high tech. So I was coming back to the discoveries that Gino made. And one discovery was pretty straightforward. And he was intrigued that why is it that these 5% or minority business founders could run businesses, control them, and still, not get frustrated. And when bumps came along the way, they just navigated the terrain. while the 95% of the other businesses kept struggling. What he also discovered that these businesses who did really well did these 6 things really well. So essentially, there are these 6 key components in EOS, and what he realized was all these business owners were really strong in each of these 6 key components. Because all entrepreneurs and leaders tend to wrestle with about 136 issues simultaneously. And to the extent that you can strengthen the 6 key components of your business, all of those problems, challenges, issues just tend to fall in place because they're really symptoms of the real root cause. So the EOS journey is essentially strengthening the 6 key components of your business. And that's what the journey is. And some of the frustrations that he saw business owners from the other kind of category deal with were, there's just general lack of control of the business. He saw that there was not enough profit, so lack of profit. There's frustrations around people, and founders get generally very frustrated with people, and it's very normal for us to even get frustrated with, someone driving in front of us because, we don't have that patience anymore. And then there's this issue of hitting the ceiling, which is essentially you've tried a bunch of stuff. It's like throwing darts on a dartboard. You're trying a lot of different things, but nothing seems to stick or work. And that's that feeling where you've kind of hit the ceiling, you've tried a bunch of stuff, but you can't break through the ceiling. And then there's that general apathy where there's nothing working and, you keep trying, but you kind of keep falling off and you get frustrated and eventually you give up. So these were the frustrations that he saw entrepreneurs deal with. And that's where the EOS model comes in. And this is where the EOS journey starts. And the whole EOS journey is strengthening these 6 key components in a business, because if you strengthen these 6 key components, everything seems to fall in place. So what I'm going to do is take you through these 6 key components and take 2 passes around this. The first pass is going to be quick, where I give you a quick summary about these 6 key components. And in the second pass, I'll introduce you to the tools or disciplines that help us strengthen each of these 6 key components. So the first key component for any business and for your business is the vision component. This is about being able to clarify and see where you're going with this business and what's your plan to get there. It's about making you and your leaders see the same thing and want the same thing. And once we go through the second pass, I'll introduce you to the 2 tools or disciplines that strengthen this key component. The second key component is the people component. For you to achieve that great vision of yours, you need great people. But the funny thing is, each one of you would define great people differently in your unique organization. So when we work in the tools in EOS, we kind of cut through this jargon of, A player, A players, rock stars, and top quartile and all that stuff, and really get to the heart of what makes great people in your unique organization. Again, once you identify, you kind of get to the point where you can identify what are the right kinds of people you can hire in your organization and which are the ones that you can repel who are not aligned with your culture. And again, more on that when we cover the tools. The third key component is about the data component. This is about being really good at using data to drive decision-making in your organization. So it's about using numbers, facts, and figures rather than the egos and emotions that tend to drive decision-making in entrepreneurial companies. So we want to be a data-driven company and also allow us to use our gut and instincts, but that should be complemented with data. And that's what we mean by a data-driven company. Now, what happens is when you've got a vision in place and you've got great people executing on that vision and you're running your business on a handful of numbers, there is this immense clarity in the business and everything gets crystal clear. But at the same time, all your challenges, opportunities, problems, ideas start bubbling up. And that's what leads us to the issues component. And this is very simply about being really good at solving your issues as they bubble up permanently. So we want to be the kind of company that solves issues permanently, rather than being the type of company that deals with the same set of issue week over week or month over month, and get the worst case of deja vu when you see the same set of issues every month, quarter, and year, and you just say, didn't we see this before? So issues, the mindset here is to solve problems from the root permanently. Again, more on this when we come back to talk about this in detail. The fifth key component is the process component. This is about being really good at doing the most important things in your business the best way and the right way every single time, because this is what gives you the scalability and consistency as you grow your business. It makes running your business a lot more fun, and obviously makes your business much more profitable. Again, a couple of tools here that will help us strengthen this component. And the last key component is the traction component. This is simply about execution and about bringing your vision down to the ground. And it's not a coincidence that your vision's at the top of the model and traction's at the bottom. Because if you can't get your vision down to the ground, vision without traction is hallucination. It's never going to happen. And that's a quote I use from Gino all the time. So this is the EOS model, and the journey in EOS, if you embark on it by yourself or through an implementer, the journey is to strengthen these 6 key components of your business. And all of this put together is called the EOS model. Now, you've heard me talk about strengthening each component and getting it to 100% strong. And in EOS, 100% strong is utopia, it's perfection, it's never going to happen. So our true goal in EOS is to get you to an 80% strong or higher. And most of the companies that we work with or have surveyed, and they've taken surveys on the website, they're operating anywhere in the range of 20 to 40% strong. And some of them still succeeding despite themselves. So again, the journey is to strengthen the 6 key components and get us to this 80% strong goal. Because shooting for perfection is not going to happen. And, things keep changing and you'll never get to 100%. So one of the companies that I work with over 3 years have got to 92% in one of the quarters. And then they've had some reorg and, some people left. So they went down to about 76% over the next few quarters. But that's pretty normal. And then you kind of get back up. So it's just not, the journey never ends. You continue using the tools and disciplines to stay 80% up and higher. And that's when we say you start hitting all cylinders and, everything kind of works in your favor and goes in your direction. So that's the EOS model. What I'm going to do is take a deeper pass at this and introduce you to the tools which help us strengthen each of these 6 key components. Starting with the vision component again. And the first tool that we work with is called 8 questions. Now, if you're familiar with EOS or if you read the book, this is referenced as the VTO, or the Vision Traction Organizer, in the book. And whether you use EOS or not, or whether you work with me or not, all you need to do is just download this VTO from the website. And by the way, EOS is fully open source. You don't need an implementer like me to help you. You can buy the book Traction, and that's the manual to implement EOS. You could just read it yourself and start implementing those tools yourself. Just completely open source. All the tools are open source. So you can download the VTO from online, but I'll show you how it looks and explain how it works. Essentially, this is a 2-page strategic planning process. And when we work with clients, we work together with them and their leadership teams to help them answer these 8 questions. Again, there's no magic in the questions that we answer. The magic is in the answers to these questions and the alignment of the leadership team around these 8 questions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you those 8 questions spread across 2 pages. This is the vision page. These are the first 5 questions in the orange boxes. What are your core values? What is your core focus? What is your 10-year target? What is your marketing strategy? Your 3-year picture? And then the next 3 questions on the traction side, which is what is your 1-year plan? what are your rocks, and what is your issues list. And what I'm going to do is just walk you through these questions briefly so you're going to get a perspective and context around this. The first question that we answer when we work together with leadership teams is, what are your core values? And I know this has been the most abused term in the history of business, and it became a fad in around 2000 after Good to Great and Build to Last came out. But in EOS, we just define core values as those guiding characteristics which define the culture and the DNA of your organization. It's the kind of behaviors and actions you expect from people who work with you. And core values cannot be defined. We help you discover them because they're already inside you and your leadership team. And when we work together, we kind of scratch the surface and let them bubble up. And later, I'm going to share how we use these core values to hire the right kind of people and attract the right kind of talent to your organization. Because you want to be working with people who are aligned with this culture. So you love spending time with them, and they exhibit the kind of behaviors that are aligned with you and your ecosystem. While at the same time, you use core values to repel the people who are not aligned with your culture. So you don't get misfits, cultural misfits in your organization. More on that when we talk about the people component. The next question that we answer is essentially, what is your core focus? Now, this has been called millions of things in the history of business. Some people call it the mission statement. Some call it the vision statement. Stephen Covey calls it the voice, and Jim Collins calls it the hedgehog concept. And we, confuse it even further by calling it core focus. And the whole idea here with the core focus is because it comes from your core. And this is about your North Star. This is about why are you doing this and what is it that you do so well? In other words, what is your obsession and what makes you so passionate about what you're doing? And this is about just articulating the sweet spot for your organization. And once that sweet spot has been articulated, the trick is to stay laser focused in that sweet spot. And together with the core values and core focus, you kind of define the soul of your organization, because those together are the soul. That's the who and the why and the what. And once you answer these two questions and are aligned with your leadership team, we answer the third question, which is, where are you going in the long term? Now, we say a 10-year target, but this is essentially a long-range business goal. Jim Collins calls it a BHAG. We call it a 10-year target. Essentially, this is a range of 5 to 30 years. So where do you see your organization in the next 5 to 30 years? You pick a range. We put 10 as a guiding framework, but people change it anywhere between 5 to 30 years out. And this is about rallying everyone in the organization around that number one business goal that you see yourself hitting in the next 5 to 30 years out, whatever number you decide. This is like the top, planting a flag at the top of Mount Everest and rallying everyone and showing them the flag and saying, hey, this is where we're going long term. And it's going to be tough. It's going to be a lot of snow, rain, sleet, and all that kind of stuff. But if we together, we're just going to execute and get to the top of the mountain. And that's just about rallying everyone. So everyone sees the same thing and wants the same thing. And once you guys are on the same page with this, the next question you answer is your marketing strategy. And this is very simply, this is not a very complex tactical plan. This is about getting everyone on the same page as to who are the kinds of people you should be talking to and spending all your marketing and sales energy towards. And that's simply your target market. And I know you guys are very sophisticated about this. You probably have personas, ICPs, and all sorts of stuff. But this is just there to simplify life. So everyone in your leadership team is all on the same page with who your ideal target market is. And once you define that market, the next 3 questions are just your messaging to that target market. So I don't know, maybe a lot of you are B2B. So when you see the target market, once you identify the demographic and geographic and psychographic profile of the right kinds of people you should be targeting to, then out comes this list. That's the list of companies you should be targeting. And once you have that list with you, then it's about the messaging to that list. And the 3 uniques here are just those 3 things that differentiate you from the competition. And it's the combination of 1, 2, and 3 that makes you different from everyone else out there. The proven process is very simply a one-page visual representation of your customer journey. So it's like a sales and marketing tool that you use in your sales and marketing process. From the point a customer starts thinking of doing business with you to the time they become happy referring customers. So it's a one-page visual illustration. Essentially, instead of telling someone how you do this, you are showing it to them in a single page. It's your customer journey. So visual is always much more powerful than telling someone something. And then if you can give a guarantee and reduce the fear of adoption and remove the friction in the sales process, then you kind of put out your guarantee. All of these four put together is your marketing strategy. So very simply, the first question is core values, which is who you are. Core focus is why you do this and what do you do. 10-year target is where are you going? And the marketing strategy is the how. This is how you're going to get there. Using the strategy is how you're going to get to your long-term target. Once you answered these four questions, you started crystallizing your vision. But it's still very woo-woo. We need to bring it down to the ground. And our bridge to reality is the next question, which is the 3-year picture. And the 3-year picture is very simply making things real and allowing you to make it tangible. So here you see a future date, which is 3 years from today. What does this organization look like? And then we make it tangible by saying, what is the revenue that you expect in the next 3 years? What's the profit or EBITDA margins that you track? And, maybe 1 or 2 measurables on your way, your ARR or your number of customers or whatever metric you track to show scale and growth in your business. And then you see about these bullet points, 5 to 10 bullet points under the title, which says, what does it look like? This is where you and your leadership team visualize as to how does this organization need to look like in 3 short years from today on your way to build that foundation to achieve your 10-year target. So this is where you kind of put in, number of regions you're present in, the kind of technology you're using, number of people that you have, systems, processes, and all that stuff. So you kind of just painting a picture which allows you to build this foundation to help you get to your 10-year target. And there are 2 great benefits with this. Number one, if all of you can see the same picture in your mind's eye, the probability of you achieving that is very high. And it also takes away all the distraction that you have from your 1-year plan, because there are things which are 3 years out. You don't need to worry about it this year. And this is what leads us to the traction side of things, where we start talking about what is your 1-year plan. So these are the most important things that you must get done this year and what those priorities are. Again, you see the same set of numbers. This year, what is the end of your fiscal year? What is the revenue you're going to achieve? What are your EBITDA margins or profit? Again, 1 or 2 measurables that you're tracking towards progress. And then you create 3 to 7 goals for the year. We don't create 22 goals for the year, because if you have 22 goals, that means everything's important, which means nothing is truly important. So we said 3 to 7, less is more. And once you've defined the 3 to 7 goals and everyone's all on the same page, then you've nailed your 1-year plan where where you're going to go in the next year. Then we cascade it down to live in a 90-day world with something called rocks. Rocks are called priorities. Some of you who've read John Doerr's Measure What Matters probably used OKRs. So this is similar, but we just call it rocks, and there's a distinct difference because in OKRs, you kind of achieve, you target 80% objectives or key results or something like that. But with rocks, we say, hey, if you say you're going to land on the moon, we land on the moon. Let's not shoot for 80%. So that's the difference between rocks and OKRs. So rocks are those 90-day priorities, which essentially help you live in a 90-day world where you execute on that vision of yours every 90 days. So it's like a sprint cycle where you're executing in every 90-day sprints and cycles. Same set of numbers. What's the future date 90 days from today? What is your revenue in the next 90 days? EBITDA, profit, and 1 or 2 measurables for success. And then you create 3 to 7 priorities. And these are life or death priorities. These are the stuff that you must get done no matter what in the next 90 days on your way to achieving that goal or vision or, stuff that you need to get done. And this is not business as usual stuff. This is stuff that moves the needle for the organization. And you also see a who column here, which means that someone is accountable for making this happen. So this is what brings in the focus and the discipline at the leadership level to make sure that these priorities actually get done. And you live in that 90-day cycle where you execute your 90-day plan, you take stock, and again, reset and create your next 90-day plan. So once you guys are aligned as a leadership team with your priorities, you answered this question, you know what it looks like in the next 90 days. And the last question you answer is, what is your issues list? And this is just about taking all the questions, problems, ideas, opportunities that are bubbling in your head and putting it down on a piece of paper or software somewhere. So this is the stuff which doesn't distract you in the short term, but this is the stuff you may want to come back to in the, after 90 days. So you don't forget that. It could be, a new system, a new acquisition opportunity. It could be raising capital or something of that sort, which is somewhat more for longer term issue. So that's what you do. You answer these 8 questions. And once you're all aligned with the answers to these 8 questions, we say that you are aligned at the leadership level with your vision. But the work is not complete there, because once you answer these 8 questions and once you get aligned at your leadership level, then you need everyone to follow this system. So that means this vision must be shared by all. And the way we make this happen is we take this VTO and we share it in a town hall or quarterly state of the company, which is done every 90 days, where you share it with all the people that work with you or for you. And you do it virtually or physically, however it works, where you tell them your vision, because that's the simplest way to share your vision with the organization. And people, the first time they hear it, they probably don't hear it at all, because there's this statistic that people need to hear it 7 times for them to really hear it the first time. And so you need to repeat this over and over again. And eventually, when you do this across 6 to 8 quarters, people start getting it. People start seeing your vision. And eventually, once you follow the system and the tools and the process, get to a point where everyone in your organization is rowing in the right direction. And that's when we say, planets line up and stars get aligned and magic happens. And, that's the kumbaya moment, if I can say. So that's what 100% strong looks like in the vision component, where you and your leaders are aligned with your vision, see the same thing, want the same thing. And then that vision is shared by all your staff. Now, moving to the people component. People component, simple. It's about getting the right people in the right seats. Sounds very simple, but it's the most toughest job, right? Getting right people for your organization. And again, this was a tool which was popularized by Jim Collins in Good to Great. And I'm just going to make it a little more tangible to you as to what it means from an EOS perspective. And we need both. We need right people sitting in the right seats, and they're not mutually exclusive. So right people are those people who are aligned with your core values. They are the people that are aligned with your culture. And the tool we use to get all the right people in your organization is called the People Analyzer. And the way it works is you kind of map out your values in the columns and then put the names of the people that work for you in the names column. And essentially, you rate them as to how they're doing on the day-to-day basis and how they're living out their values. And there's a rating scale, which is there, plus, minus, and plus, minus. And what this tool allows you to do is just evaluate as to where people stand with respect to your core values, right? And it also gives you an opportunity to help them and mentor them and share with them as to where they're lacking and where they're succeeding. And it's a great mentorship opportunity rather than, talking to someone after 6 months of them not being aligned and suddenly there's a flare up and then the only option is for them to leave the business. This just allows you to kind of get people aligned with your way of thinking. And some people get it and some don't. And the ones who don't, probably going to make your life miserable once they continue working for you. So it's a very simple tool. And all you do is every quarter do this with everyone that reports to you and make it tangible for them. So when I say humbly confident, it should be very clear what it means, because it can mean thousands of things for every person. Everyone can interpret it differently. So you have to make it really tangible as to what it means and what kind of behaviors you expect. And so essentially, anyone who reports to you would be in this people analyzer. And it's a great tool for coaching and mentoring and upskilling people in your organization and to build that culture that you want to build. So that's right people. And there's this concept of the bar, which is the minimum acceptable standard that you allow in your organization. Now, the other tool is right seats. And we need both right people sitting in the right seats. And right seats just means these are the people that have the skill, the talent, and the experience to do their job well. And the combination of right people sitting in the right seats is what we want, right? So that means they're aligned with your culture and they're great at what they do. But for this, we take a big step back and just, bear with me here, because this is going to sound really simple and basic. What we do in EOS is we do structure first, people second. And we create something called an accountability chart. And accountability chart is just like an org chart with roles and responsibilities written. That's what it is. But we do this with structure first and people second. That means we start thinking of what is the ideal structure of our organization in the next 6 to 12 months. And very simply, at a very basic level, every organization needs marketing and sales. So marketing to kind of do the demand generation and sales to close those leads. You need operations to deliver the promise or the product to the customer. And you need finance, which is money in, money out, managing and acquiring assets. That's at a very basic level. And then we say there's a fourth function, which is an integrator. An integrator is the kind of person who is beating the drum and making everyone accountable in the organization. And they're the glue in the organization, making sure everyone's doing what they're supposed to do. And eventually they also become the tiebreaker, and they're the ones who deal with conflict and help take decisions when there is a conflict between two or more departments. And we say there's a fourth seat or fifth seat called the visionary seat. Now, visionaries are big idea people and usually founders of organizations. Every meeting they come to with 20 different ideas. They get frustrated when they see people not getting those ideas. They get frustrated at the pace of execution in the organization. They're going at 100 miles an hour, but the rest of the organization is going at 50 miles an hour. And they don't understand that. They don't understand why is it happening like this. They come up with tools, ideas, concepts, and they want to roll it out immediately in the organization. And when they see people not doing it the way they would like it, they get frustrated and they eventually kind of lose their energy and energy to follow through with that system. So that's why there's a lot of chaos in organizations where a visionary and the integrator is the same person, because people can't just sustain that energy and the stuff that they bring in on the table. So you'll see a lot of dips and peaks in organizations where there's a visionary and integrator, because they keep changing course all the time and people can't catch up with the speed at which they're going. So the key thing here is once you define the structure, and obviously when you do it for yourself and when you work with someone or when you read the book, the right way to do this is, for some organizations, marketing and sales splits into two distinct seats. Operations may split into 2-3 distinct seats. Finance sometimes splits into IT, HR, and admin and stuff like that. We just have to get it right for your unique organization. 3 to 8 is the rule of thumb at the leadership level, at this level. So when you work using the book and the process, there are 2 ways you would customize it. One is at this level, you get the right number of seats at your leadership level. And the second thing that you do is you write 5 roles for each of the seats that exist. So you're saying, if there is a marketing seat, what are the 5 roles that you expect from that seat to deliver to your business? This is essentially a summary of what you want that function to deliver to your business. So if this is marketing, you're expecting them to deliver, lead generation, brand awareness, social media, whatever those roles are. And essentially, those are the things that you quantify and, build your KPIs or scorecard measurables out of to track their progress. Yeah, so I mean, in case of marketing and sales, you see LMA stands for lead, manage, and making people accountable. In marketing, supposed to do marketing, hit sales numbers, sell, and account management. So that this is just as an example for you guys. And I'm going to skip this. So essentially, what you're doing is you build this accountability chart, and you've got the right structure for your organization, and you've written those 5 roles for each of the seats that exist in your organization. And now you have to fill those seats with the right people sitting in the right seats. That's what the whole magic is about. And again, right people are those that are aligned with your core values, and right seats are the ones that we say GWC these 5 roles. That means they get it, they want it, and they have the capacity to do it. So when you see these 5 roles, we say that, you know, you get it, you want it, and you have the capacity to do it. So this is like a hockey example, which is there, where there is a center, and you know, this is ice hockey. It's not our European hockey, but this is about winning face-offs, creating scoring chances, scoring goals, back checks, defense, and minimize turnovers. And essentially, the right person sitting in this, you know, I mean, the legend Wayne Gretzky, maybe, they get it, they want it, and they have the capacity to do it. So that's the way you would do a check on this. And the idea is eventually all people in your organization should be the right people sitting in the right seats. And when you do this process right, there are 2 issues that pop up. And I'm going to skip through this quickly. So this is your structure that, you know, if you do the process right, you'll kind of build this structure for your organization where you've got all the seats with all the 5 roles mentioned, and then you fill in the blanks with the names of the people that are the right people in the right seats. So 2 issues that prop up with this. Sometimes you have the right person sitting in the wrong seat. That means you love them as a person, they're aligned with your value system, they get your culture, but they just don't deliver what's expected of them. Now, you're not running a charity, you're running a for-profit business. So the easy way out is, if you find a seat in your business where they can sit and deliver what's expected, great. Otherwise, you just have to find an alternative. The other one's a bit more challenging, where you have the wrong person in the right seat. This means that they're hitting their numbers, they're delivering what's expected, you know, to the business. They're amazing in delivering the targets, but they're just not aligned with your core values. They are toxic to your culture. They think that they're God's gift to your business. They think without them, your business is going to fail. And they think that they're the X factor in the whole business. So if you have someone like this, you think they're God's gift to your business and they cause you more stress than anything else, I probably need to make a big change in your business, because they're going to create a very toxic culture and kind of break away your company like termites in little ways that you don't see right now. So these are the 2 issues you typically get faced with when you do this exercise the right way. So 100% strong here looks like where all your people are the right people. That means they're aligned with your core values. And all those people are sitting in the right seats. That means they GWC their seats, which means the 5 roles that they have, they get it, they want it, and they have the capacity to deliver what's expected. Now, the third key component is called the data component, and a lot of this is going to move faster now. Data component's about running your business on facts and figures and numbers. And you know, great quote from a former CEO of Netscape says, if we have data, let's look at it. If all we have are opinions, let's go with mine. So essentially, we want to be a data-driven company where we take decisions based on facts, figures, and numbers, rather than those egos and emotions that tend to drive decision-making in entrepreneurial companies. And the first tool here is simply a scorecard. And when we work with businesses, what we do is we build a scorecard, which is a weekly dashboard, right? These are numbers which are tracked every week. And these are the numbers which are activity-based numbers that get you the results, right? So what we're saying is, what are those numbers which will tell you that your business is in good shape at the end of the week? So there is a measurable that you're tracking. And again, this is just for illustration purpose. This is for another SaaS business. This is about, you know, what's your weekly revenue? What's your cash balance? How many sales calls did you make? How many sales meetings have you had? How many proposals have you sent out? Closed business, customer satisfaction, AP, errors, utilization, all that stuff. Now, for some businesses, this is telling them the pulse of their business. Obviously, this is going to be very different for each business. It has to be made and customized for each one of you. But these are the numbers that one would track on a weekly basis, and there's a weekly goal associated with this. So what do I expect to deliver this week? So there's a goal, a yardstick, which is there. And someone in the organization is accountable for delivering this. So this is what they're delivering week over week, and this is what gives us the feeling of traction, the feeling of accountability, because if they keep hitting those numbers every week, we are moving forward. There's progress. And that brings in serious accountability where they're accountable for delivering this number week over week. And then you see a 13-week history of how it works. And this is what allows you to see patterns and trends. And, this is like an early warning system where you see stuff which is not doing as per target. Then you just step in, roll up your sleeves and figure out why you were not able to hit that target, rather than waiting till the end of the month or end of the quarter when it's probably too late. So again, early warning system gives you a pulse of the business. This is like a diagnostic for you, and you do it on a weekly basis. And this is what tells you what's working in your business and what's not. Usually all the problems that you have, the diagnostics are in the scorecard somewhere. And again, these are some examples of what some people use as weekly metrics that they track in their business. Now, once you get the scorecard going at the leadership level, then the next thing you do is you take this discipline of scorecarding and migrate it at every level of your organization. So eventually every team, every department has their own little scorecard, and everyone is running their own version. I'm just looking at a question that someone posed. Yeah, it is simple, Hamza. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. So what we do is we take this discipline and kind of cascade it at every level of the organization. So for example, if you have a marketing team, they're running their own little scorecard. If you've got a sales team, it has their own little scorecard and so forth. And eventually you get to a point where every person in the organization at least has one number that they're accountable for keeping on track every week. And that's what 100% looks like and feels like in the data component, where everyone is part of a scorecarding discipline and they own at least one number that they must keep on track week over week. And that's what 100% strong looks like here. Now, we said that when you got your vision in place, you've got great people executing on that vision, and you've got running your business on a handful of numbers, there is this clarity and everything seems crystal clear. While at the same time, all your issues and opportunities and problems start bubbling up. And that's what leads us to the issues component. So you cannot achieve success as a team or as a company if you're not great at putting your issues up as they come up, and also be really great at prioritizing and solving them as they bubble up. So the two tools we use here is, number one, to have this culture of maintaining an issues list at every level of the organization. And then once you have this issues list, then being really good at prioritizing and solving those issues as they come. And when we say prioritize and solve those issues, we mean solving them from the root so they don't keep appearing again and again. And for that, the tool that we use is called IDS, which stands for Identify, Discuss, and Solve. And this tool was created in a fit of rage by Gino. And when I spoke to him about this, he said that, he would be in leadership team meetings, kind of helping leadership teams fix problems. And he would see them discuss the heck out of issues and not really solve anything. So they would just get in the room and discuss the heck out of problems. And rarely would they get to the point to solve anything substantial. And whatever they were solving was more at the periphery rather than at the root. So IDS is this methodology that we use here, which stands for Identify, Discuss, and Solve. And what this means is usually whatever is written as an issue in your issues list, is not the real issue. So you have to identify the real issue by digging a little deeper into that, by asking that simple question, oh, why is this an issue? What's the real challenge here? And you kind of dig deeper and deeper to find the real issue. All of you guys and the people that you employ, all of you guys are smart. And once you really identify the real issue, it's easy to solve it. But a lot of times we're solving issues which are more, at the root. And these are the issues which come back to us with a vengeance much later. So, the trick is to spend 70% of your time in identifying the real issue and 30% discussing and then solving it. Because once the real issue is identified, it's easy to solve. So imagine this is your issues list in your weekly meeting. And what you would first do is prioritize your top 3 issues. And you would say, okay, what are the top 3 issues I must get done with or solve this week? And you would select them 1, 2, and 3. And you would start with issue number 1 and IDS. So you identify the real issue. So when I say Andy right seat issue, why is this an issue? What's the real challenge here? You keep digging deeper till you really understand what that issue is. And once you've identified if it's a process issue, it's a training issue, or it's a issue related with bad hiring, I don't know, whatever it is. Once you identify that real right issue, then you discuss it briefly and you push for a solve. And solving an issue usually means that someone takes up an action item or a to-do, and it just becomes, they become accountable in getting that done for the business. And once that action solves this issue permanently, we get rid of this issue from the list because that action will solve it permanently. And you would follow the same process with issue number 2, identify the real root cause, discuss, and then solve. Using this methodology, you would feel a little funny at first, but once you get it down, you start seeing massive gains where you're solving issues in a focused way, solving the most important issues that are plaguing your business that week, and getting traction and moving forward. And that's what 100% Strong looks like, where every person, team, department has some issues list maintained somewhere, and they're using this concept of IDS to solve issues from the root. Now, the 5th key component is the process component. And this is about getting the most important stuff done the right way and the best way every single time. Every business has a handful of core processes. And what we say is the first tool is about documenting and simplifying those core processes. Because if you try and document each and every process in your business, you're going to end up with a manual 1,000-page SOP manual, which is going to sit somewhere on your drive or OneDrive, and no one's ever going to look at it or touch it. And the EOS way is a very entrepreneurial way. We say, okay, first identify your handful of most important processes, and then you just document and simplify them using a 20-80 approach, which is 20% of the steps that get you to 80% of the result. And so the first step is identifying your core processes. And a lot of businesses have a people process, a marketing process. How do you go about getting people in your business? Hiring, firing, reviewing, and rewarding. Marketing is just about how do you do demand generation and all the stuff that you need to generate leads. Then how do you close those leads? Then you have a handful of operations processes. I mean, for some tech businesses, you obviously have DevOps, product management, and all that stuff. There's a customer success process, accounting, and essentially once you've identified these core processes, they become your table of contents in your way of doing things. And now we just have to document and simplify them. And, think of like checklists or simple Loom videos, which kind of explain how to do stuff. And you just put together stuff like a people process. How do you identify the people that you need to hire? How do you define the seat, which is, those 5 roles that you need them to deliver? How do you go about hiring them? How do you onboard them? How do you make them accountable? How do you lead them? And in case you need to get rid of them, what's the process? So again, I work with a very large tech company, about 600 people. They have a 3-page hiring process. Essentially, their people process is 6 pages. And as opposed to when I started working with them, it was 45 pages. And now using this system, they've got a 6-page people process. And they've got simple checklists, a couple of Loom videos, and that's it. And the whole trick here is to document and simplify it, getting you down to 20% of the steps that give you 80% of the result. And similarly, you would do your sales process, your ops, DevOps, or whatever sort of processes you have in your business. And once this is complete, you put it all together in Google Drive, Notion, or whatever you use, and then this becomes your way of operating. And this becomes very solid IP. And whenever you're raising capital, or if you have an exit moment, this definitely bumps up your valuation, because you've got a documented set of processes which allow the business to operate without you and your key personnel. So anyone who kind of collaborates with you can kind of, the drill. It's easier for them to integrate. And a lot of businesses, especially service businesses, you guys probably have products. A lot of service businesses, this is their IP. And this is what really bumps up their valuation. So great quote here is from founder of Four Seasons: systemize the predictable so you can humanize the exceptional, which is very simply, you document 20% of the steps, which is systemizing the predictable stuff, so you can humanize the exceptional. That means the people that you have who are great people working for you can take those steps which can really wow their customers. So that's what they say, you can humanize the exceptional. And that's what Four Seasons is known to do. They do all the basic stuff really well, like all hotels do, but they really take customer service to the next level. And everyone that you interact with at Four Seasons property will make you feel really special. And that's what they say, they humanize the human element and take it to an exceptional level. A great book to read around this is Unreasonable Hospitality, which is kind of making the rounds right now. It's Will Guidara, and I highly recommend you guys check out that book. It's a great book. It's about how a restaurant owner, went from something as a startup to a 2-star Michelin restaurant, something like that. It's a great book. So that's the first step in the process component, which is documenting it. And once you document and simplify it, you need your people to follow those processes, because documentation alone is not enough. So you need people to follow them. And the process, to follow the process, is very simple, a little 4-point checklist. You need to train everyone who touches any of those processes. You need to measure whether they're following the process or not, which is, complying, frequency, and results. You need to lead them, manage them, and make them accountable. And here the important point to note is, are you the kind of leader who will tolerate someone not following the process? Or will you step in and say, oh, you didn't follow the process, let me help you and teach you again how to follow this system? And what do you keep doing when people don't follow the process? Because if you tolerate something in your organization, that just becomes second behavior. So that's where the LMA bit comes in. You need to lead, manage, and make people accountable. So if someone's not following the process, which they've agreed to, then you need to step in and make sure that they get aligned with this. And that's the LMA bit. And once in a while, you update your processes, which is the Kaizen way or the continuous improvement way, because stuff happens. And a lot of my clients updated their processes after ChatGPT came out. And a lot of their marketing now has some element of ChatGPT. And I don't know, I truly don't know how that's working. So, but yeah, they made the changes at that time. So that's what 100% looks like in the process component, where all your processes, your core processes, are documented and simplified and followed by all. Now, the last key component is your traction component. This is where the rubber meets the road and everything comes down, and where we get to execute on what we truly want. And a lot of founders kind of fail in this area because they truly can't get their vision down to the ground. And the two tools here, the first one is called Rocks, which you heard from me when we answered those 8 questions. And the second one is called the Meeting Pulse. So Rocks are your 90-day priorities. And let me go back. So Rocks are your 90-day priorities. And essentially what we want to do is live in a 90-day world. And what this means is, once you set your priorities for the next 90 days and you're crystal clear what you need to get done in the next 90 days, then you, with focus, start executing on those priorities. So we set company priorities, and then you set individual priorities for each one of you and your leadership team. So everyone's crystal clear what's of importance in the next 90 days. And Rocks are those important things, life or death, which you must get done. And they're generally 3 to 7 priorities. Anything more, that means you have too many priorities. That means everything's important. That means nothing is truly important. So you set 3 to 7 important priorities for the company, and you focus and you execute with discipline, and you live in this 90-day world. To give you an analogy, this is how it feels like. It's like running a race. You're starting at the starting point. You kind of hit the gun and you start running. You're running in your lane with focus and discipline and executing what you need to get done. You end the race. You check how you did in the last 90 days. You look at your vision, your big picture again, because 90 days is a very long time to forget the big picture. You make sure you're still aligned with that. Then you reset your priorities for the next 90 days, and you jump back into the race and start executing again. So you kind of live in this 90-day world where you're executing on your vision in 90-day cycles. That's what a 90-day world looks like. And during those 90 days, we introduce a weekly meeting pulse to make sure you keep on track. And this meeting pulse is called a level 10 meeting. And the interesting thing about this is it is a weekly meeting pulse, which is done the same day at the same time. It starts on time, it ends on time, and has the same agenda. So I've been running my meeting pulse in my company since 2014. It starts on a Monday morning at 8 a.m. and ends at 9:30 a.m. So it's a 90-minute meeting. And I've run this for the past 9 years without fail. And in EOS, we say you cannot miss this meeting because it's super important. And the only reason you will miss this meeting if you're on vacation, which is fair enough. And the other reason if it's a funeral. And my American friends say it has to be your funeral for you to miss it. So the idea is that you cannot miss this meeting. And because this connects the left and the right and just gets everyone all on the same page. And a lot of businesses that I speak to, and I ask them, hey, how do you rate your meetings internally? And sometimes they say a 4, a 3, a 2, a 6. And this meeting is called the level 10 meeting because it takes your meeting experience from that 4 or 6 to a 10 on 10. And that's why we call it a level 10 meeting. And the agenda is pretty simple. You start the meeting with a bit of good news. So you start on time and you start with a bit of good news. You transition into the meeting, and the next 15 minutes are your reporting round. So this is where you report on your scorecard, which is how did your week look like? Were you on track with your numbers or were you off track with your numbers? Then you do a ROC review. So you review your priorities and say, hey, are you on track to deliver those life or death things that you committed for the business? Are we on track to deliver it in the next 90 days? And then you kind of inject a bit of customer and employee headlines just to make sure that even finance and marketing and sales are all connected in some fashion. You share something about your customers, or, someone shares something about the employees or vendors, or, like the other day, a client of mine shared, oh, AWS increased their prices and it's going to affect us. And it's just a headline. And some headlines become issues and some are just FYI. So again, there is no discussion in these 3 rounds. So 15 minutes of reporting only. And then there is a bit of an accountability to-do list. So these are the things that you committed to get done the previous week. Now, when you come to this meeting, you're just saying whether you got those things done or not done. So a to-do list is usually 7 days action items. And, as a great leadership team, 90% of your to-dos should get done. Once you check in and make sure that people are doing what they committed to get done, then you get 60 minutes, which is the meat of your 90-minute meeting, to look at your issues list, prioritize the top 3 issues, and IDS, which is identify, discuss, and solve them. So you use that IDS methodology to solve the most important issues that your business is dealing with. Because that's what business is, guys. It's solving a series of issues and moving forward every week. And that's what traction is about. So you prioritize your first 3 issues, you IDS them, and once you've solved them, the action items from those issues go to your to-do list, which you will get done the next week. So when you come next week, you will say done or not done in your to-do list. And you keep repeating this process. You prioritize IDS, your issues, in sets of 3. Once you solve the first 3 issues and you have time, you pick the next 3 issues. And you keep following this process till you run out of time. And when you run out of time, you stop. And you get the last 5 minutes to conclude your meeting, to kind of recap your to-dos, kind of cascade anything that needs to be shared with other teams or departments or customers, and also rate the meeting on a scale of 1 to 10, just making sure you're doing your best in your meeting with this idea to get to a 10 on 10 at some point in time. Now, I promise you, when I saw this meeting agenda, I was like, man, this is not going to work for me. It was really funny, and we kind of kept going all over the place when you try to follow this agenda. But I promise you, if you just stick to it for 3 weeks, the 4th week is going to be beautiful for you. And it takes about 3-4 weeks of using the agenda the right way to really get an agenda that you fall in love with. And it's doing some really important stuff, because in this 90 minutes that you have with your leadership team, you're reviewing the most important numbers of your business, which tell you whether your business is in good shape this week or not. You're checking in with the most important priorities of your business for the next 90 days, making sure, are they on track or not? You're getting to know a bit about what's happening in your customer space or employees and, vendors and all that stuff. You're making sure people are doing what they're committed to do in the previous week. And then you're solving the most important issues that are holding you back as an organization. So this agenda, if done right, gives you this feeling of traction, because the time that you spend together as a leadership team gets more effective, and you feel the time you spend together was more productive. You got a lot more done. And there's a lot of money in the table when you guys sit together as a leadership team, and it truly gives you the ROI that you want, because you're solving the most important issues in your business and moving ahead. And that's what traction looks like 100% here, where everyone in the organization has at least one rock or priority that they're accountable for delivering to the business every 90 days. And they are in the right kind of meeting pulse for their team or department. So you would start with a level 10 meeting for your leadership team, and then cascade this at every team and department level. So there'll be a separate level 10 for marketing, separate for sales, and so forth. Those departmental meetings are a little more tactical. They don't have to be 90 minutes. When I started, I had like 2 people in my marketing team, so it was a 30-minute meeting. But it just depends on the size and complexity of your team. 90 is the maximum, and some people use 60 minutes for sales, or 60 for ops, depending totally on the size and complexity. So they get tactical as they cascade down. So that's what 100% looks like in traction. And with that, I kind of shared with you the entire model and what 100% truly looks like when you kind of execute this model. And that's what the whole journey is about in EOS. When you read the book gives you guidelines on how to implement this one model at a time. And read traction, and that gives you the exact guidelines on how to implement this. And what I did with this session for you guys is I kind of gave you the movie behind the book. So the book is the manuscript, it's a little more detailed, it's a novel, and I kind of gave you the movie in about 60 minutes or so. Now, there are lots of tools that you can use, all the stuff that we spoke about, which will help you start getting the results. And all of this stuff is available online. You can download it from the EOS website. Now they've put like an email wall now. Earlier, we didn't have that, but you still have to give your email to download all those documents. So you might get some, those blog articles and marketing messages, but you can always unsubscribe to that. So the tools we spoke about were the VTO. These are the 8 questions that you answer. So definitely use that in your business. That's your 2-page strategic plan. Simple, just get alignment with everyone on this. And so you see the same thing and want the same thing. There's that accountability chart, which allows you to kind of build the right structure for your organization in the next 6 to 12 months. So start building that structure without people, just the structure first, as to what's the ideal structure for your org in the next 6 to 12 months. You have a marketing seat, you have a sales seat. Are you looking to hire an SDR? Do you have a customer success person? So you kind of build this ideal structure, and then you kind of fill in the blanks as to who's sitting on those seats. The ones that are empty, you kind of know you need to go hire for that if you have the budget, or you sit on them in the interim. And whenever you have the money, you hire for that. And then also do a check whether all the people sitting on them are the right people in the right seats. Are they aligned with your culture? And are they delivering what's expected? If not, either mentor them and upskill them to get them where they are the right people in the right seats, or you have to make a change. Don't let them live a miserable life, and don't live a miserable life yourself by having the wrong people. We spoke about rocks. This is about your 90-day priorities, the most important stuff you must get done in the next 90 days. And guys, this is life or death. This is not business as usual. So I had an accountant once say, I'm going to prepare my profit and loss statement in the next 90 days. All right, I think that's your job, right? I mean, you're paid to do that. So that's not a priority. So that's business as usual. So that's not a rock. Meeting pulse is the pulse that you use to run your weekly meetings as a leadership team and then as team and departments. And I highly urge you to use the level 10 agenda, which you can download a copy of, again, online. Scorecard is the weekly diagnostic tool. This is about, what are the most important numbers that are giving you a pulse of your business? I mean, it's like getting an MOT done every week on your business, and it tells you whether you're in the right shape or not. So those are the tools. And again, there's some online resources. I'm sure you can just Google them, but the website is eosworldwide.com. And there are a bunch of books written. I think EOS keeps writing a book every year now. And there's a great people book out there as well if you're interested. Reach out to us, EOS implementers, if you're stuck somewhere. Otherwise, you could watch. There are tons of content available. As I said, a lot of this is pretty much open source right now. And yeah, now just want to open it up for questions. We have about 15 minutes. Happy to hear from you guys. And I'm happy to answer anything that you have. Bridget, go ahead.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Sid. I have read the book and can confirm that follows very closely the what you learn in the book, and it was great to get a refresher. Thank you. But I really wanted to talk about that last section that you went through, which is the level 10 meetings and the agenda, because you're right, it's very, very prescriptive. And when you read the book, you're kind of drinking the Kool-Aid. You're like, all right, I've got to do this perfectly. I'm going to implement it and do it as suggested. But I wanted to ask you what experience you have with remote companies, because my general piece of feedback about this book is that it's very inspiring, it's very helpful. We have implemented it, it's great. But it seems to be, it was written at a time, sorry, I've got to confirm my speaking language. Zoom is unsure of what language I'm speaking, okay? At a time when it assumes everybody's going to the office, everybody's, like a room behind me, you'll have everybody troop into this kind of meeting room, and then you lay out the agenda, and you do every 5 minutes, and you do everything as you just suggested. But when I looked at that from our company, which is a software company, so we have very different cycles in terms of product development, product-led growth, so it's less emphasis on sales. We're not manufacturing widgets that we're trying to ship every week or every 3 weeks. There's a kind of traditional business in America circa 1980 feel to this book, I have to say. And I had to think about it from the perspective of, well, how does this apply to a modern SaaS company where we have very different kind of go-to-market strategies, the first point. And then the second point, in terms of remote, one of the things that we do is we increase transparency in the company by recording our level 10s, and they go out every week on our Slack channel, so everybody can see the bulletin. It's called the bulletin. We obviously edit it slightly, but we record the Zooms, the Google Meets on Blue Dot. It generates a level 10, a specific level 10 formatted agenda summary, and then we post it. And so as a result, we had to drop the bad news about the HR headline. So in the book, it says you have to talk about any kind of HR issues you've also got that you need to raise as an issue. We obviously can't talk about confidential things and then broadcast it to the whole company. So we've dropped that. And also, going sort of the good news and then the customer headlines and everything else, we kind of had to drop it. And it was because we needed to get quite a tight routine going for the recording to fit remote. And I just want those 2 points, which is this book was written for an entirely different kind of business model to the ones that we all run at the moment, and how have you addressed that? And secondly, some of the assumptions around it are bricks and mortar meetings like the one behind me, but in fact a lot of meetings happen online now, and how have you addressed that?
Thanks for sharing, Bridget. So yeah, I think when it was written, Gino, in this typical Midwestern American sort of way, kind of wrote this as a very simple sort of a structure to use, where you use pen and paper to kind of take these notes. And it's like a tip. I mean, I hope there are no Americans here, but typical Midwestern American guy kind of taking notes in a diary and kind of keeping it, and the secretary kind of diarizing everything. Yeah, maybe that's what it was when he wrote the book in 2013 or 2012 when Traction was written. I've been running a remote business since 2014. And when I met Gino around that period, and I asked him the same question, it's like, hey, how do I take this online? He's like, have you heard of Excel? I said, yes. He said, just use that. And I'm like, will it work? And he said, yeah, it sure works. And, 8 years of using it, I mean, now we've got sophisticated software for EOS, where everything's online, everything's available, the whole structure is there. I mean, there's a company called 90.io, which is valued at about 300 million or something, which just does EOS software. And I don't know why and how, I mean, I always curse myself. I could have done that myself. But anyways, that's a different story. But there's this great software, and it runs for remote teams. And it is essentially following the same agenda. Everything's remote. And now you choose to share your level 10 meeting with everyone in the company, and that's not EOS pure. It's okay if you want to do that. I don't do it. My leadership team meeting is a sacred confidential meeting for the leaders. And then we choose to share what we want, that is called cascading messages, with the people that are there downstream. So it works perfectly for remote companies. I mean, I've used it since 2014. I used Excel at the beginning, but, and then we moved to Google Sheets, and then now we use EOS software. And now there are teams who still run it remotely and still use Excel and Google Sheets because they don't want to pay for the software, and it just works fine for them as well. And a lot of this was put to test during COVID, because everything moved remote and it kind of stood the test of time. And everyone who was using EOS followed the same set of agenda, ran the meetings the way they wanted, using the agenda, and got the results that they expected. So to answer you, I've personally 20 plus clients that I work with all use the same agenda. Most of them are remote. And the second question is, what was your second question? Whether
Sorry,
it was to...
I just want, like, we are remote and we use the tool. My point is, so it's not that you can't use it when you're remote. My point is that we modified the prescriptions in that agenda in order to record the call. And I'm just asking whether that, how, to what extent do you have experience of people modifying the agenda to suit this kind of use case, like being remote? How prescriptive do you feel it should be implemented?
So if you work with an implementer, or like if you were to take my advice, I would not change the agenda and I would use it as pure. But I've had teams that I've spoken to have modified it to their liking. And if it works for you, that's great. But what we do in EOS is we don't ask you to share this verbatim with everyone in your organization, right? And for that, we have a different concept, which we call like a quarterly state of the company, which is every quarter you do a town hall and you share where you've been, where you are, and where you're going. So that's where you share your scorecards, your rocks, your priorities, your annual goals, and you kind of open it up and say, hey, does anyone have any questions? How can I help? What do you want to know more about the company? And, that's where you kind of do your core value shout out, you kind of awards, kind of tie everything together to kind of build culture and transparency. Now, there are some companies I work with that put up all the numbers that their financials are publicly available to the employees, right? And so they put up a simple financial scorecard, which is available all the time on the intranet or Notion or whatever they use, Airtable. and people can just go and see the state of the finance of the company at any time. And if they have any questions, they can see cash in hand, they can see burn rate, MRR, ARR, everything updated real time. And again, that's the culture of having transparency. Now, when I'm taking certain confidential decisions and I know someone in my organization is not the right person and I need to do something as a leadership team, I'm not going to broadcast that. And that's just confidential as a leadership team. So in EOS Pure, we don't share the results of the 90-minute meeting, and we use the quarterly state of the company to kind of do a town hall with everyone. So that's the right way using EOS. Okay. Cool. Any other questions, guys?
Yep. Awesome.
Go ahead.
Hamza.
Yes. I don't know if you hear me well. Otherwise, I could write it down. I think the weekly meeting is a bit maybe too much for us. I think about setting it up every 2 weeks. Do you see any major drawbacks, or it's formality and I could move forward? Because that's the only thing I see.
Thanks for sharing, Hamza. And again, you know, in EOS, we say find the right meeting pulse for your organization. We feel that at least a weekly meeting keeps the left and the right connected, because we want to be the type of organization that, you know, comes and connects in a meeting, kind of, you know, exchanges information, solves issues, and disconnects to do their work, and then come back every week to make the connection. Now, some teams I work with want to do a daily huddle because, hey, that's my agile way of doing it, or I've got scrums, I've got all this stuff, and they do a daily huddle. And some say, oh, I'm comfortable doing it, you know, by, you know, twice, like you said, you know, once in 2 weeks. So use what works for you, you know, and if you want to optimize it, make it weekly. If it works, you know, once in 2 weeks, that's great. So again, it's flexible. Use whatever you like and make the best out of it. Yeah.
Thank you, Joran.
Yeah, I just want to know, is it the software? Is this the software you were talking about? Or I did some Google search, EOS software.
Yeah,
Okay.
That's the one. .io. It's not the best software, but that's the only licensed software. Now, EOS, in their own you know, idea, they've developed their own software, which is being launched pretty soon. It's called EOS One. So it's developed by themselves. So yeah, Bridget, thanks. Take care. Bye. And yeah, so there are a bunch of software available, and I'll give you a free software, guys. If you don't want to spend money, I'm just going to pop it here.
That's what we like.
Instant Agency Tools. This was created by Teamwork, you know, teamwork.com, the project management company. And what I hear is that they were sued by EOS, but you know, they kind of changed the terminology of everything, and now they're clear. So this is free, just use it. You know, you don't need like expensive software to get EOS going. And this has all the VTO stuff. You know, the terminology might just be a little different, but it's self-explanatory. You know, you don't need to do too much work to get it to work for you. And they have the level 10 meeting. You can start running it. It has a timer. It keeps you on track. So it's a great tool. And I'm surprised it's free, you know.
Nice,
Good
thanks.
stuff. Yeah. Anything else, guys? Well, if there are no questions, thank you for your time. Appreciate you guys being such patient listeners, and hopefully you picked up a thing or two. Do rate the survey which Joey sent out. Alex is a dear friend, and I don't want him telling me, oh, no one enjoyed your session, so please rate us well. Alex gives me a free ticket to SaaStock. All right, guys. Thanks.
Nice.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sid. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending. Have a good evening. And if I don't see you next week in USA, I'll see you at some point in the summer. Thank you so much. Have a good day so far. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the SaaS Revolution Show. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you learned something from it, check out SaaStock.com/events to find all the upcoming SaaStock conferences around the world. Want exclusive SaaS content and actionable insights to grow your SaaS? Join our community of over 36,000 SaaS founders at SaaStock.com.